income tax, which is supposed to increase from 170,000 crores to 206,000 crores, which is a growth rate of something like 22%. Now, your ministry has issued, and issues it monthly, and I find this data very useful, as to how much is a growth rate in personal income taxes each month. And the last number I saw, and I hope I'm wrong, was April to December, the growth rate was 15%. Growth rate, I'm not talking about levels. Right. Every year, the January to March quarter yields more revenue, but I'm talking about growth rates. Now, given this projected increase in the total, it means that January to March this year will have an increase in revenue, personal income tax revenue, of something like 35%. Is that credible?
No.
And given that our growth rate is declining, right, how credible is it that the growth rate in personal income tax revenue from last January to March to this January to March is 35%?
I don't want to do, let's talk about the overall number, right? The overall number for tax revenues is 19% growth. Let me tell you where that comes from, right? We are assuming a growth rate of nominal GDP of 13.5%, okay? There is natural buoyancy which pushes up the revenues beyond that. This year, for example, with 5% growth, we got close to 17% growth in tax revenues, okay? So with another percentage point and a half of growth, or maybe just a percentage point additional of growth, the question is, can we get to 17, 17 and a half, 18?
Okay,
but add to that we have revenue increasing measures. That's another percentage point. We get 19% comfortably if we make our growth forecast. Now, the next thing you can ask me is, are we going to be 6% growth? Well, that's our estimate.
And Raghuram, if I could just turn your attention to subsidies. Are we seeing big structural changes in the subsidy system, which you think are is pointing away? Now, we heard a lot about direct cash transfers. That's obviously something that's happening. Fuel subsidy, do you think we are structurally on the path now that will come down to much lower levels? And then on the question of food subsidy, I mean, Subsidy just did say that the food subsidy bill may not fully be implemented by the time this year is rolled out, but just 10,000 more for that, do you think it's going to be adequate?
Well, so let's start with the fuel subsidies. I mean, the intent is to let the diesel price go up by, the monthly increase that's already been stipulated. A 1 rupee increase in the diesel price cuts our subsidy bill by 8,000 crores, right? That's a big number. Multiply that by 6 months, and of course the math doesn't work out exactly that way, but that's 30 to 40,000, maybe even 50,000 crores off your subsidy bill, right? So if we can push this price increase over time, and if oil prices remain stable, that's, I admit, an if.
And the rupee stays stable.
And the rupee stays stable, you can get the subsidy bill down by a lot. The gas cylinder cap will also help. That will help somewhat. As to the food subsidy bill, I mean, we don't have a food subsidy bill still that's been passed by Parliament. When it is passed, the precise contours of that bill will have to be examined and how it will be rolled out. My sense is it will take time first for the bill to pass. When that is passed, we'll have to, assess how it will be rolled out and what the cost will be. The finance minister has set aside some money for a hypothetical situation.
Okay. Another hypothetical situation he did set some money aside for was GST. So again, some of these big reform measures are hopefully coming, but it's not entirely in your hands, I guess. GST, DTC, insurance bill, land acquisition.
DTC is more in our hands to put it back to Parliament. There are some changes that will be made. But yes, surely GST requires the cooperation of the states. There are negotiations, as you know, that are well underway. The hope is that this gets done, because I think it is a great plus for growth in the country, for trade in the country. It can be very useful. But there are a lot of things that are in the hands of the government also that can be done over the year. And I think when you put all those together, you can be a little more hopeful about growth.
All right, I know you have to leave us. Thank you so much for having been with us, and we look forward to seeing how this budget is going to pan out and all the numbers as well.
Thank you.
Actually, if I could just get you... All right, fine. Let's take a break, and then we are told we can perhaps keep you for a little while longer, so we're going to take that opportunity. I'm going to take a very quick break. We'll come back. We'll try and have some more questions. Just please stay with us.
लिखो इंडिया की नई पहचान.
Checked out the LIC website. Solid info, user friendly and very today. I'm sure they'll keep pace with me. I'm going for LIC.
Bringing the world together, building the world together. Binani Cement, for generations to come.
जंग वाले पानी से मुक्ति पाओ. फिनोलेक्स पीवीसी प्लम्बिंग सिस्टम्स लगाओ. पक्का वादा फिनोलेक्स का.
This is a mountain and this is a river. Let's follow the course of the river. Aha, the perfect spot to build a run-of-the-river dam. Here we use the river's natural energy to generate power. So now we have an environment-friendly dam and a chirpy mountain as well. This is just one of the many ways in which we create power for a happy planet. Jai Prakash Power Ventures Limited, the power to do good.
Now banking goes online with CosmoNet. Your trusted Cosmos Bank offers full-fledged internet banking services, Cosmos Bank, personalized services and much more.
Yokohama Tires, the spirit of Japan.
RP Sanjeev Goenka Group, growing legacies.
स्पोर्ट्स क्लब का पता है ना गुड्डू? जीत गया. यहाँ से सीधे जाना, फिर एक सर्कल से आप चलिए.
एक मिनट मम्मी, मैप माय इंडिया पापा ने कल ही लाया था.
Destination is 20 minutes away. Turn left now. Destination reached.
Bye.
The best car GPS navigation and entertainment system. India finds its way with Map My India.
Your thumb. It goes from here to here. This bigger screen goes from here to here. Now, that's either A, an amazing coincidence, or B, a dazzling display of common sense. Pretty sure it's the common sense thing.
म्यूचुअल फंड से लोग ऐसे डरते हैं जैसे बच्चे इंजेक्शन से. वैसे म्यूचुअल फंड को इंजेक्शन भी कह सकते हैं. इन्फ्लेशन का इंजेक्शन जरा सा चुभेगा लेकिन सालों तक महंगाई की बीमारी से लड़ेगा. और इंजेक्शन की तरह ही म्यूचुअल फंड भी जरूरी है आपकी बचत की सेहत के लिए. तो हर महीने जितना हो सके म्यूचुअल फंड में सेव कीजिए.
म्यूचुअल फंड सेविंग का नया तरीका. अपने फाइनेंशियल एडवाइजर से सलाह लीजिए या SMS करें सेविंग 56070 पर.
डरना मत और भूलना मत.
If you felt the energies of these businesses, then you felt the energy of Murugappa. Bet we've met Murugappa.
Welcome back. Well, we still have Raghuram Rajan with us. We were able to persuade him to stay on with us for just a couple of minutes more. So thanks for staying on. We also do have our other guests out here. And we are going to be going across in just a couple of minutes to Jai Panda as well, who is with us. We also have with us Mr. Nair from KKR. Can I just come to you first, Jai Panda? What is your sense of it? And a lot has been said today about the crucial bills that are pending in Parliament and how important it's going to be to get those through for the government to really get to this 6.7% growth rate? Are you confident that Parliament will cooperate?
Well, before I answer that, let me very quickly say, I think the sense you get from most of the commentators today is that they've been expecting something far worse and sound quite relieved with this budget. But the overall objective of the budget, which the FM himself pointed out, was to spur growth, has not seemed to have started off on the right foot, because the message has not been loud and clear. And you can see that the initial response, the first day response of the markets, have been quite tepid, quite lukewarm. So in terms of what is pending in Parliament, I would say that the big thing that's welcome is finally the acknowledgement that for the GST to happen, the states will need to be reimbursed for their revenue losses. And this is exactly what was done in the case of VAT many years ago to make that happen. And the deal that has been today indicated with, setting aside 9,000 crores is a welcome move. But it's about 2 years overdue. This is what the states have been asking for a long time. And this was a deal ready for the taking for nearly 2 years. And it's unfortunate that it got delayed. So in terms of will Parliament support, I think many of the states which are part of the Empowered Finance Ministers Committee will take up the matter soon. I suspect there is possibility of moving forward. But the question is, will it happen in time in this fiscal year? They've left it far too late in the day.
Okay, before I come back to Raghuram Rajan on the broader issues around the budget, let me just get another political question in. Rajiv Pratap Rudy joining us as well. Mr. Rudy, your sense of the budget and your sense also as to what to expect in Parliament in this session. Is the BJP going to be cooperating with the government in a lot of the steps that he says he needs your support for?
Well, when you say about the BJP support to various legislation, first the government has to take a call with its own alliance partners and its colleagues. So that is the most important thing, that they should be on the same page when they take up these issues as far as reforms and other measures are concerned. Because we have our stated position on several of these financial reform bills which have to take place. So I don't think there is a problem there, but the problem is there with the government's own alliance partners who make up the majority. When you talk about the budget, you see for last 55, 60 years, budget has been an exercise which is watched with all keenness by even commoners, and there is a sense of an excitement that the budget is going to offer something. Today's budget, which we have called as a lackluster budget without direction, as if the government is clueless as what they are going to offer. What is the big picture emerging out of this budget? Which is the sector which you think has been emphasized, or there is a focus in whether it's manufacturing or agriculture, or maybe the unorganized sector, or even for that matter youth? We do not find anything, because we understand that the economy which has come down to 5%, but to bring it back to 9%, where is the roadmap in this entire budget? And that is a big question which the BJP has been asking. And the answer that this 5% growth which has come down to 5%, what is actually responsible for it? Is it entirely the situation which is existing internationally, or the government in last 4 years has created this situation, has created a situation of bankruptcy in the government, be it governance, be it accountability, be it delivery mechanism? So what has actually happened? The government has been, Mr. Chidambaram has been very quiet on the subject. So what is the big picture emerging? And can we really discuss this budget after this evening? A common man, what is there on the price front? What is there on the inflation? What is there on the food inflation? So how does it affect when the prices of petrol, diesel, whatever reforms the government has been introducing? How is it affecting and exciting a common man who matters a lot?
Okay, I'm going to come back to both of you right now. Raghuram Rajan, I don't want to involve you in a political discussion, but I am, before you finally do leave us, going to ask you a couple of other questions just on the broader trajectory. And then I'll just come back to you, Jay and Rajiv, and get back to the political discussion in a couple of minutes. On the direction and the path that the government has been in, there was a period of some sluggishness, and then from September onwards, there seemed to be a new zeal around in particular, and a lot of measures were pushed through. Is that path still pretty much on track, you think? And was the budget a step in that same direction?
Yeah, I think so. And if you look at the elements of the budget, you have to look at the details. There's a thrust for manufacturing with this investment allowance that's been given. There's a thrust for small and medium enterprises saying that they should be allowed to grow, not stay stagnant. That's the beginning, we hope, of something much bigger. There's a big thrust for infrastructure, including infrastructure financing, these infrastructure debt funds, for example. There's a big thrust on finance. Nobody's mentioned the fact that we've now allowed foreign institutional investors to hedge in the foreign exchange markets, which will add depth to those markets and bring back some of those markets from other countries where they've disappeared. Look at the details of the budget. You'll see a lot that is positive for growth. However, there is no big giveaway, because for every big giveaway, there has to be a big tax. You tell me where to tax without affecting growth, and I'll tell you where I can give the big giveaways. But people are looking at only one side, not seeing in a constrained budget, you have to give me the other side also. And they're not talking about that.
Okay, can I just say, next year there's going to be elections. This is your chance now, the next few months, to really push through any reforms that are meant. Now, some of the reforms may be good politically as well, like the food security bill or the land bill, but not all of them are. You think the government is going to be able to push through reforms? Is that the sense you're getting from the others?
Well, the intent is there. Now, how that plays out depends on a whole lot of other factors. But yes, in terms, well, first, there's stuff that doesn't need reform, that needs implementation, and the Cabinet Committee on Investment has started. We need to see how that goes, but that will be an important factor in unclogging some of these stalled projects, which are very important. There's, issues of coal pricing. There's issues of coal linkages. These are all implementation, can be done without the cooperation of political parties and so on. But there are big things which need political cooperation, the bills that you talked about, but there are other possibilities. And then there are small measures which will activate growth on the smaller front. Reforms, for example, to small and medium enterprises. Can we do a little more of that? Can we facilitate that growth?
All right.
I
Sujit,
had
very quickly.
one question which we were discussing earlier, actually, as to next year. You said there aren't any giveaways or some words to that effect. Well, expenditure has been increased by 16% when GDP growth is expected to increase by only 11%. So what some of us were hoping for is that the rate of growth of expenditures would be lower than GDP growth without cutting any expenditures. That's certainly not been done. Matter of fact, the reverse has been done. But the question remains, come next year, there's an election. That's part of the reality. Now, how compelled will Mr. Chidambaram be, or be allowed to be, to fix to his GDP, fiscal deficit target of 4.8%. The elections are coming. You don't have a budget till after the elections. Let things slide.
Let him so quickly respond. We have a lot of people. Yeah.
Well, as the Americans say, that's above my pay grade. That's something for the political leadership to determine. But my sense is, as of now, there is a very strong sense of commitment towards this budgetary path that has been laid out in this budget. And Mr. Chidambaram again reiterated today that if there are slippages, he's going to get us back to 4.8%. I don't see any reason to doubt that, given the track record of the last few months.
And as the Americans say, one man ceiling is another man's floor.
Sujit, we have to leave it there. Raghuram Rajan, thank you so much for having joined us. It's such a pleasure to have you, having had you with us. Let me just go across now to Mumbai. Sanjay Nair, CEO and country head of KKR, is with us. Arun Nanda with us, and Ketan Dalal as well. And then I am going to come back to the politics in just a couple of minutes. Sanjay Nair, first of all, your broad sense of where this budget is headed?
Look, I think that this budget is definitely a very, very honest attempt at painting a very realistic picture. I think there's a serious attempt to make sure that there is not too much of populist and non-planned expenditure. And I think they're very reasonable targets. They're not something which are unachievable. And obviously, there is obviously a big assumption of growth, which, I think is the big question mark. I think Dr. Rajan just mentioned there are a lot of small things the finance minister has announced which should hopefully spur some investment and better savings rates. But Vikram, it all boils down to execution, and it all boils down to the fact that the people in the cabinet and in the government have to help an enabling environment to get business done in India and to get the Indian businessman to invest again. So unless you have the investment climate looking better, you have capital expenditure picking up, I think, this is not going to translate into the growth assumptions that are there. But frankly, it's a pretty sincere and a pretty reasonable attempt at trying to at least curb the expenditure.
Arun Nanda, let me get you in. Would you agree with what was just said?
Yeah, I think he's done a reasonable, in fact, my initial reaction was that one feels relieved because I was scared of two things. One was the populist approach, and although he started off by rolling out a scheme after scheme, but what I really found heartening in this is that unlike a dole, means his expenditure and schemes are focused on three areas. He's spent a lot of money and thinking through on the skill development and education part. He's spent time and effort to see how to bridge both, whether the gender divide or the rich and poor divide. And the third one, he's actually gone to the health. For the first time in all these years, one heard of somebody talking of geriatric care. We didn't hear that level of people thinking to that minute details or talking of removing arsenic and fluoride from the water and making it available. So I think even when he's brought out those...
Perhaps people talked about it or thought about it. They didn't necessarily mention it in the budget speech, although he did say it was going to be a short speech. But yes, your point taken. Jay and Rajiv Pratap Rudy, let me just come back to you. Given that this is an election year, how much of this budget do you think was aimed at the electorate? Or is this doing a certain amount of stuff and then you expect a lot of the real populism just before the 2014 election to come maybe later in the year? Rajiv, why don't you go first?
Well, as I said earlier, that when you have a budget, it should build up some excitement. But possibly the government and the finance minister said that it could not leverage itself because it had constraints of the economy, of the resources and so forth. But the fact remains that there's nothing which...
disappointed that they didn't do more which would have got the electorate really disappointed? I mean, really excited? Were you wanting...
You see, already this government...
up and down like
No, but already this government has proven that it cannot deliver anymore. And there's a growing mistrust, there's a growing apathy towards the government, which is all obvious for many reasons. It's not... This particular budget would have made the people think differently about the government. It's many more things which affects the whole perspective or the outlook for the government. So I don't think that this would have mattered much for the government if they would have given some stops. Because the day-to-day life of an individual, of a middle class, of the unorganized sector, of the people who are working in the fields, those people in the agriculture sector, they feel that this government has not been able to give them much. That relief which they have always been looking forward, or the quality of life which should go up, or the stress in life, or maybe those youth who are coming out, the needs of employment. So it's just not this year, it's about 8 years now. The 9th year it's going. So in that case, the government...
I'm just trying to keep it to this budget, though,
how much it has delivered.
Okay, I'm trying to keep it to this particular budget. Jay, very quickly, some of what was done in the taxes on the super rich and things like that, Jay Panda, do you think that was also with the electoral message? This government has got the Aam Aadmi in mind and we are willing to go in there and hit the super rich in their pockets?
Look, everybody is aware of the constraints that FM has been working under because of the last 4 years of accumulated misgovernance and mishandling of the economy. So I think his entire, the whole worry was that he would drop the ball, and he has tried to play safe. In that sense, he is focused entirely on the fiscal deficit. And you can see that most of the allocations made on different heads, if you adjust for inflation, not from the revised estimate, but from the budget estimate of last year, you find that there's hardly been any increase. So there have been some token signals to the electorate, and you rightly mentioned the tax on the super rich. But again, the thinking is inconsistent. For example, just 2 months ago, the Odisha Chief Minister had suggested a tax on supernormal windfall profits in the mining sector, exactly like Australia has done. Same principle, but it was turned down. And there are individuals that actually have made hundreds of crores of profit in the mining sector, and there are companies that have made thousands of crores of profit. So there has been no consistency in that. And I think the concern, of course, is that in the coming months, whether this signal of sticking to 4.8% fisc is actually going to do the trick. If it doesn't, I suspect they're going to slide right back to the profligacy of the last few years.
All right, Jay, Rajiv Pratap Rudy, thank you both so much for joining us. We are going to have to leave it there for the moment. Thank you both so much for being with us. We are going to take a very quick break and then take quick reactions as we start winding out down our coverage. We're going to try and get some more reactions from the rest of our panel when we return in just a minute or so. And then Montek Singh Ahluwalia is going to be joining us right here on NDTV Profit.
Bringing the world together, building the world together. Binani Cement, for generations to come.
Proven on global test tracks, manufactured in 3 continents, available in 118 countries. Apollo tires with you first technology, crafted for the safety of your loved ones.
Over the last 2 years, we have launched Raindrops, which is our flagship brand. We see that Raindrops is fast catching up, and today it is one of the largest selling brands in the country.